Thank you all for joining us today with Pascal Vallée from UNIS and Jeremy Rostan from the International School of Panama. We're talking about AI, and I'm throwing it to you all with a huge thank you for doing this with us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Laura and Jeff, for this invitation and for giving us the opportunity to discuss about artificial intelligence with everyone. I'm Pascal Vallée. I'm the junior school principal at the United Nations International School. I've been at UNIS for 10 years. Before being the principal, I was the director of academic technology. So I had some technical knowledge background, even though I've never been director of IT before. I think the school wanted to have someone who was knowledgeable in the curriculum, managing school, to take the lead in the technology. So the technology can support what school leaders want to do. And I think that's a bit what lead us to be here today in the conversation we're going to have. Before that, I've been in Korea for a couple of years. I was principal in the French school in Korea, in Seoul. I've been also head of school in the French school in Bali, French International School in Bali. I've been curriculum coordinator also, and technology coordinator for the French American School 20 years ago in San Francisco. And I started my career as a teacher in France, as a kindergarten teacher, and teachers who are working also with students with social emotional difficulties. And I would say that those students taught me a lot. They didn't teach me about AI, but they taught me a lot about working with kids. And so I always remember them.
I'm Jeremy Rostan. I'm the high school curriculum and instruction coordinator at International School of Panama. Originally, I was a philosophy teacher in France, and then moved into different leadership roles in international schools. I was at the French American School in San Francisco, but not at the same time as Pascal. So we've never met in person.
So the work we're going to present with you today is with a lot of humility. We're going to talk about the journey that we had a bit with AI, and we're going to look at it from maybe different angles that what maybe we do usually. We look at it a lot through the education lens, how teachers can use AI, and there will be a bit of that, of course, today. But there will be also the lens of how a school administrator, leadership, can operate their division, their school, using artificial intelligence. And it's going to be really grounded into the work that we're doing. So it's going to be our own experience, personal experience, that we're going to share with you with a lot of humility. And we're going to, because it's a conversation, we're going to try something a bit different. We're going to have a conversation with Jeremy, and hopefully the technology will work fine for us. Voilà. Laura, so far everything is good. You can see my screen and you can hear me well. Perfect, beautiful.
Right, and the way we look at AI integration is oftentimes we look at three tiers or three phases. So when you start with AI, the first thing you might want from it is greater efficiency, right? You might still be doing the same things you were doing before, but with AI, thanks to AI, you can do it faster, you can do it more easily, or you can even do some of the work for you. What would be an example of that, Pascal, that you have implemented at UNIS?
Yeah. So I think there is a lot of different examples that we could show on the question of efficiency, to be efficient. And in some ways is how can I gain sometimes. There will be bigger example we're going to share a bit later, but a first example that I can.
We lost you, Pascal. We cannot hear you.
Voilà, you can hear me now. Sorry. So there is a lot of things that some of you on the screen might already do with AI at a much higher level than one I'm going to share with you right now. And some of you maybe didn't try also anything with AI. So we come here with you with not necessarily knowing exactly where you are. Later we might know, but right now we don't know. So one of the things that I've done, we write a newsletter every week at UNIS. And what I was trying to do in the past is trying to send an email that was a bit shorter, with not all the information, and summarize all the information in one email and sharing this summary with the family. And it was a lot of lot of work. So one of the things that I've been doing for the newsletter now, and here's an example of the latest newsletter, is I'm using AI to create an abstract of the main part. So I have created a bot that can create an abstract. So look at the whole article, the main part of the newsletter, create this condensed part. But more interestingly, what I have also is when I take and I copy and paste all the information from my newsletter, which sometimes is very long because there's a lot of information at Tunis, maybe too much, but it creates a summary that organized by category and allow the parents to just have a very quick view on, okay, so that's what we talk about in the newsletter. And if they want to see more, they click and they can access all the information. We do the same thing with the faculty newsletter at a bit higher level. But same thing, the teachers receive a small paragraph, click and access the all information. So that's a way here that is to do something that we already do, that we can do without technology, but by using AI, I can gain a lot of time. And the question of time is the crucial thing, is what do I do with my time? Why the school pay me the salary that they give me? Is it to spend a lot of time to summarize a newsletter? Maybe not. Maybe it's better for me to be in the class, working with the teachers, working with the curriculum office, with Barbara Kennedy on the screen today, and make sure that what we deliver for the student in the class is the highest standard that we can do. So that's here, the efficiency, saving some time.
Right, and it's a good example as a sort of low-level entry point because it's a one-step process. So you do most of the thinking, you create the newsletter, and once all of that thinking and running has been done, AI comes in like a second step just to summarize what you've already done, right?
Absolutely.
So that's for efficiency. Now the next step, the next level up would be using AI not just to be more efficient, but to be more effective, to have more of an impact, and maybe tapping into more complex processes that AI can perform for us. What would be a great example of that?
So there is few things that I've done with that at Tunis, and it will be to. So the idea here is that how can I still save time, but how can I have a product that will be higher level than what I will be able to do without AI or without the technology. And the way to do that, the example I choose today, is related to the question of automation. And that's something that I've been doing for a couple of years, is to ask the technology to automate things for me so I can again focus my time on what is the most critical. There is so many tasks that we do every day as school leaders, so many tasks that take us so much time that are not necessarily the best use of our time. So how can I leverage technology to take on some of those tasks? So then I use my brain for what is the highest level of thinking. And the last 13 months, I've been able to integrate AI into this idea of automation. And so the example I'm going to share very, very quickly here with you, because that's will be the one we will dive in a bit later, is this example here that was part also of one of the 5 minutes video that we've done with AISH. And so what you see on the screen here is you have, so I put my finger here, voila. So on the top here, what you have here is an audio recording. So it to use a tool to record a message. When I walk out of a class and I do an observation, I record a message. And this message is going to be processed by what you have at the bottom of the screen, a system, in-house system that is designed to perform some very specific tasks. What you see on your screen, in some ways, the little green dot, you might recognize the icon, it's OpenAI, so it's ChatGPT, that is performing some task that I've trained the system to do for me. So I don't bother for what's going on at the bottom. But the result of this is the teachers being able to receive a report with pictures, etc., and we will see that a bit later. So here, the idea of being effective is I can generate some some observation report that I would just not be able to do if I will not use technology, because to do what I will show you a bit later will probably take me like 8 hours of work, and I can condense that in a much small amount of time here. Voilà, so that's here, saving time and performing an output that will be a higher level than what we'll do without technology.
Right, and it's another great example because if you think about this process, where your human intelligence and your expertise as a school leader is needed is when you're in the classroom, knowing what to look for, and then having a strong teaching and learning philosophy as a school, and putting the time to do the research and craft a strong teaching and learning philosophy. Now, everything else, trying to see how what you observe matches the teaching and learning philosophy, and drafting an email and sending an email and creating a PDF and creating a folder to store that PDF. All of that work can be done with AI because you've done the thinking beforehand, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what is really critical. And it's what matters is what do we want to do? What do we want to achieve? And then decide, okay, so how technology can help me with that, and not the way around, which sometimes technology tells us, oh, we need to work. Here, so you say, no, I want to work that way. I want to do this. Can technology help me for that?
Nice. Now that you have all this time, this newfound time, the third sort of tier in using AI would be using it to be more innovative. So using it for things that either were not possible before, or that we personally were not able to do because we don't have that particular expertise. I know that you have different examples for that as well.
Yeah. So, and it's going to be a very simple example. Again, very humble example, because maybe some of our colleagues on the screen right now, they're doing things that are much more innovative that I'm going to share. But here it's really to illustrate the idea that, oh, I can do something that without technology, I was just not able to do. So this is here the innovation level. And it's nothing that I've designed here. It's just using ChatGPT on the app with the license. So what it looks like here in the idea of innovation is I can do something new. What I can do is with ChatGPT, I can talk to my phone and my phone can answer me. So really practical way that I'm using it here is I'm driving and I have a long commute because I'm living 55 miles away from the school, because I like to see some deers and some fox and some rabbits in my backyard. I love that. That's I'm maybe IT, etc., but I love the trees. And so when I drive, I'm thinking about the work that I'm going to have to achieve, etc. And I have a 1 hour and a half, 2 hours commute here. And so I talk to my phone. I know, people talking on the phone on the street, that's weird. I talk on my phone. But what I do here is I have created some bot that have a very specific profile. And in the example that I share here, so you should see on my screen here is my phone here. It should be animated, but just be patient a bit. What I do, and a very concrete example, I had a very sensitive meeting with a family in the morning, and I'm driving, and I expose the case to a bot that I've designed to be a counselor that is fully aware about our approach, the restorative approach that we have, a bot that I have feed with our logical consequence, a bot that is fully aware about the second step curriculum, a bot that is fully aware of the restorative approach. And I talk to this bot, and I share with the bot the situation that I'm looking at here. And in this specific example, that is a real example, I'm asking the bot to identify the logical consequence that can work with this situation here. And I asked the bot also to give me some element of language that I could discuss with the parents. But it's not just I ask and they give me the answer. I engage in a conversation and to add some element to say, oh, this is a good idea, let's put that on the side, etc. And I do that like for 20 minutes. And at the end, I say to the bot, so now you're going to summarize all the points here, and you get to keep this one, and don't forget this one, but this one we don't need it, for example. So I really talk like an assistant. I have an excellent assistant, Miss Adam. She's wonderful, and she will do a wonderful job at that, but she's not driving with me in the morning. And when I arrive at school, I have a recap of all the conversation, the highlight, the element that I should not forget, and it's super helpful. And this is not what AI has just given me, and I just take it as granted. It's part of a conversation that I have led with my intention, with the documentation that is feeding the system behind. And it's just save me so much time, first when I'm commuting, but also to be able to have something that is going to organize the work for me. Some of you might do that with recording meeting, AI generating, etc. But we can do it also for other things like this example here. So that's Mr. Counselor is the junior school counselor AI that I'm using at Unis sometime when I'm driving mostly.
And it's a great progression that you've shown, because again, the first step was using AI sort of just to summarize things that you've already written and thought about your newsletter. So that's step one. Step two is using AI to perform different, almost cognitive tasks that are not very complex, but it's busy work. That third one, you design the assistant. So you equip the assistant with the knowledge that they need, and then you can reuse them whenever it's needed with a new situation, and they can leverage this knowledge that you've given them, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that's what leads us to the next element here is
Right.
is the misconception.
Exactly. So, what would be some of one big misconception about AI and the use of it, or the integration of AI in a school context, according to you?
Mm-hmm. And so here we need to make a choice because when we talk about misconception, there will be a lot of misconception that we could have. And so we don't want to give the impression to the audience here that we're dismissing other very important misconception of consideration of AI. We choose here an angle of really looking at school operation again. But the work that we're doing with Jeremy, and Jeremy has a philosophical background, for example, we look at also many other impact of misconception of AI on humanity, on languages, etc. But here, my focus is going to be really on operation. And one of the misconception I've chosen here is the idea that in some way, so either AI is going to like create the chaos, etc., or AI is going to solution everything, and that AI is the center of the conversation. And for the example I share with you, AI is not the center of the conversation. I've seen an article, for example, a few months ago with a school in Texas who is going to replace teachers with AI. Like the idea that AI is going is the center. AI can do it. But for the work that we're doing with Jeremy, and I think what is very important for all of us, is this is not what matters the most. AI is here to support an intention, a human intention. What do we want to achieve? When we talk about AI in education, for example, and AI in instruction, I feel that sometimes we like forget one thing. What is our teaching and learning policies? What is good instruction? The question is, what is good instruction? The question is not, how can I use AI to teach? The question is, how do I want to teach? And how AI can support the instruction. Because if not, what we see teachers who are like very progressive, like inquiry-based teachers who suddenly use a system that do a very top-down way of instruction. Because it's a bit mind-blowing, because it's quite amazing what this system is doing. So AI is here to assist us. Technology is here to assist us. What matters is the process. What do we want to achieve? So when we look here, for example, as operating school, so not education teaching, but operating school, AI is at the end. What matters the most is, how do I want to work? How do I want to deal with substitution at Unis? What is the process that makes the most sense for our students, for our teachers, for our community? When we have the idea of this is how we want to work, we know that in order to be able to work, we need to be able to have information, database. The database, the information that we want to use with technology is going to be crucial. We can have AI. If we don't have good information, AI is going to generate some text. The more information AI is going to have, the more tailored to our need is actually going to be. The other element that I think matter even more than AI, in all honesty, and that's my personal view for the work I've done, is the idea of automation. Automation, we don't talk really enough in school automation, but in the private sector, automation is big, because automation is to allow us to save critical time. And in some ways, that's what allows us to regain our humanity. Interestingly, if we use AI and automation rightfully, we can regain humanity, because I can save time that I can use to be in conversation like we are today. The other element that we need to think about is how people who are going to use the system that we're designing, or the process that we have, are going to be able to interface with the system. And then at the end, for me, come AI. Okay, so now, can AI do something? Because AI can do a lot of things. Can AI help me to do what I'm trying to achieve with all this here? So that's really, Jeremy, the misconception I was I wanted to share here with you today. We are big in AI. We are, with Jeremy, we do a lot of things with AI, but we're not blind. AI need to support our intention, our idea. And here,
I agree.
for example, yeah, sorry, Jeremy. Yeah,
No,
here
go ahead.
is an example. Yeah, it's an example. The first thing that I've done with AI 1 year ago, when OpenAI made available their what we call an API that allow to connect the AI to system, I've designed with the high school students a system that was allowing a student not to just use ChatGPT, go on ChatGPT and put your assignment and see what's going to come out from there. Already 1 year ago at UNIS, we were looking at how we can leverage this technology to guide the AI to tell my student, you can submit your draft and I'm going to give you some feedback, and those feedback are going to be aligned with the specific standard that we have in our curriculum and the specific intention of the teacher. That's something in some ways that we can do today with some platform like Mizu, Flink, Magic School. There is things that exist today. But already 1 year ago at UNIS, we were looking at how can we leverage this technology so AI support my teaching intention. Not just having teachers and students on ChatGPT and ChatGPT make the decision on what is the intention, but being able to prompt the system to do what I want it to do. And so we test this system 1 year ago with a student, and it was a way for the student to say, well, ChatGPT can help, but the teachers is here, and the teachers inject his knowledge, his intention in the system. Voilà.
Right. Obviously, I agree, and that might be one of the biggest takeaways from today. This different way to look at AI. We've been thinking a lot and talking a lot about what are some things that AI cannot do. Right, the evolution is so fast. The progress that the technology is making, like the pace is so rapid that we're left wondering, okay, what can it not do? What are some things that are uniquely human and that AI cannot do? And we sometimes hear, well, it's critical thinking, or it's true empathy, or it's whatever it is. And what you're showing is what for sure AI cannot do is having a true intention, is having an end goal. It's the why we're doing this. So AI it's a set of technologies. It's a means that we can use to achieve our ends. Our ends cannot be dictated by AI. Right? So we are, or we have to be, in control of the process in that we set the goals. We decide as school leaders or as teachers or as students, here's what I'm trying to achieve. And I'm using and controlling AI to achieve this goal, rather than having the technology take over my actions.
I think this is really critical. And if I would say to all the school leaders, regardless of how they feel, their level of use of technology or their knowledge of technology or what technology can do, to work also with your IT director and to make sure that technology supports us. And in many things we're doing, and I'm sure that all of you see that, we use systems that force on us a very specific process that is decided by someone else who have created this technology. School dismissal, for example, we use school dismissal system. Well, we always try to find, but we do it a bit differently. So we always try to tweak the system that are designed for us. And I think there is way for us to do differently. There is a school in Barcelona, for example, the American School of Barcelona, and I met the IT director. They design all their in-house system so they can work the way they want to work. And I think that's really some very important question we need to have in school. How can we invest in more in-house solution that tailored to our need? Yeah. But now there is something that we want to talk about, and it's something that, Jeremy, you are very strong on this question here, is the question of the open source. And open source, and you're going to tell us a bit what is this open source. But open source can give to our school a lot of possibilities in terms of using technology when we look at finance. And when we look also at open source, we look at beyond our international school, where we have also some pretty big budget and we can invest in technology, but how open source can help also around the world, and something very important for unis, can help also students who don't necessarily have access to expensive technology, how really the world of open source can support educational system in places where the investment is going to be a bit low. So Jeremy, I know you have invested a lot on open source and you have done a lot. Can you talk to us a bit about that?
Right. So it does represent solutions to three problems. One is the one we just talked about. So open source essentially allows you to develop your own tools and your own solutions. So you're not dependent on what has been created by you or for you by edtech companies. It's a way to look at AI not as a toolbox with tools that already exist and have very specific functions. It's a platform that allows you to create your own tools. So what they will do is the cost will be very low compared to tools that you would purchase from companies. And in many cases, because you can use those new tools on your own computers, on your own servers at school, it's much safer, right? So it solves issues of creating your own tools, being more affordable, and also being more safe. Now, the way it's done, if you were to define what open source is, there's actually there are many debates around how you define what open source is. But to simplify, think of it as it's usually before AI was for programs. It's a situation where the code on which something runs is made freely accessible, right? So people who have developed the code behind the technology make it freely accessible and accessible to anybody to modify as they want, to use as they want, and to redistribute if they want. So we have a couple of examples of tools that are designed with open source platforms. So this first one, Breeze, it essentially does the same thing that AudioPen does. AudioPen is that first tool that Pascal showed, and it's a very simple tool. What it does is you record your voice, so you think out loud. And the AI is going to first transcribe exactly what you've said, and then it's going to create not only a summary, but an improved version of your thinking. So it's going to be more concise, more organized, and more polished. The beauty here is I don't have a strong background in coding. I'm not a technical expert. With open source solutions, I was able to design an alternative to AudioPen. It's entirely free to develop, it's entirely free to use, and the tools that I use are, because they run on my computer, whatever I share with this AI stays on my computer. So in terms of data protection, it's the highest level that you can have. Right? If I was to share even personal identifiable information, that would not leave my computer. Everything is run directly on my hardware. The second example, so there would be an example of using AI in the classroom, not by school leaders. Although I guess you could use it for meetings as well. And this is a great example because it comes from a conversation with a learning support teacher. And as you know, when you are excited about AI in your school, people might come to you and ask about the latest tool or a tool that they need for a specific purpose. So this particular learning support teacher came to me and asked, well, what would be a great tool to help students who need assistance to take notes in class, right? They have sometimes fairly significant learning differences. They really need help. And for them, it's very hard to both pay attention to the teacher and take meaningful notes that they can then use to study at school, at home. So would there be an AI tool that would take the notes for them so they can be fully focused on what's happening in the classroom? And at first I thought, okay, well, so what's a good tool that I can recommend to this teacher? And then I stopped and thought, okay, maybe that's an opportunity for us to develop our own tool. So that's where Dash study notes come from. Dash is the name of our mascot at ISP. It's the little dolphin that we have on our sweatshirts and for the sports team. And so what this app does is somewhat similar to the previous one, but for students. So what it does is the student would record the class. So they might use their smartphone, for instance, or just their laptop and take an audio of the class. Then they upload this recording on this app. And the app is going to give a word-by-word transcription. Then it's going to output a summary, like a bullet point summary of the lesson. And then it's going to generate comprehension questions, sort of checks for understanding to help the student study and help them make sure that they understood the content of the lesson. So those are two great examples because those tools did not cost anything. They did not, except for my time, they did not cost anything to develop. And that second one, Dash study notes, just like the first one, would run on the student's own computer. So again, the class recording is not shared externally. It stays sort of in-house in a device that is owned by the school and just lent to the student. And so we have here actually someone who's much more of a specialist of open source than I am, Ryan Tannenbaum, who is developing a platform called Engage, I believe. Is that the name, Pascal?
I believe it is the name, yes. And Ryan is in the audience, in fact. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Sorry, my computer.
So Ryan is the specialist. Right? I'm not. Ryan is the specialist. So he is coding and creating this platform that is being tested at the moment by different schools, and that I don't want to speak for Ryan, but I think it's going to be then made available for schools. And again, sorry, Ryan, if I misrepresent your project, but my understanding is because it's open source, the Engage, which is essentially, if I understand correctly, an AI-equipped LMS almost. So it's like a platform for schools to develop their own AI tools. The platform itself will be free because it's open source. The only thing you have to pay for is what Pascal referred to as the API call, meaning as you use the AI, if you use a model that is a proprietary one, like if you use GPT-4, for instance, you would use for your own usage of GPT-4, but the platform itself is free to use and allows you to create any tool that you want and that you need in your school. And so this this last video, it shows you a code that I wrote, but I was only able to write this code because the code was open source, right? So the architecture was there, and it's a good example because it does a number of things. But what matters is, in the end, the product is much safer and much more reliable, so therefore much better. It's a better fit for school use, right? So all it is you ask a question like you would on ChatGPT, but instead of just getting one answer, the bot or the platform, the app is going to give you a number of things. First, it's going to give you 3 answers from 3 different models that are open source models, so they're free to use, and it is going to compare them. So it might tell you, here are the 3 answers that I got, and all 3 are consistent. Or it might tell you, this third one is not consistent with the first 2. The reason why it's important is because we're all very concerned when we use AI in schools especially when students use it, about hallucinations and the fact that the output might not be reliable, there might be misinformation in there. Um, because of what a hallucination is, it's very unlikely that it would be consistent. So, because each answer is uniquely generated, it's unlikely that three models would have the sort of the same hallucination, right? So when the model tells you, I got three answers and all three are consistent, it's likely a reliable answer. Unless there is something systemic going on, something like a bias that would be shared by all three models, which is why, in addition to three answers and their comparison, this app also does a bias and stereotype check. So it can tell you, I got those three answers, they're consistent, and after checking, doesn't seem like there's any kind of bias or stereotype going on. And the last layer is an online search. So after comparing three answers and doing a bias and stereotype check, it's also going to go online and fact check the answer. And the final output is going to be a little summary. It's going to tell you, I got those three answers, all three are consistent, doesn't seem to be any bias or stereotype. I fact checked and it seems like it's accurate. You can trust this. Right.
And I think this is, Jeremy, I think it's a great example to be able to illustrate what we can do with open source. It's a great example also to show that in a field where there is a lot of concern about AI bias, and there is many research that can show this bias, is how we cannot be just victim of the AI bias, but how we can work on this bias with our students and generate a system that works for us that can also work against this consequence of AI that we talk a lot for the last 12 months. I think this is a very, very interesting example, and definitely a platform that has been used by many teachers, because you made this also available to others, and I know that some teachers are using it. And I think it's the next example, the last example here.
Well, so this last example, this is not open source because it uses Gemini Pro, which is a Google proprietary model. But it's a good example of the fact that AI, in our, I know that you agree with that, Pascal, in our mind, calls for collaboration between schools. Like schools all over the world have to come together and work together on AI. So what this example is that you're seeing is taking a model and fine-tuning this model for a specific purpose. Fine-tuning, if you're not familiar with the term, means you essentially retrain the model, or you give it further training to make it learn either very specific knowledge and or very specific tasks. So in this example, I retrain a model to so that it knows how to grade papers according to a specific rubric. Right? So it becomes an expert at grading. For instance, you could say, I'm fine-tuning a model so it becomes an expert at IB history paper 2. That's what it's been designed for. It's like a master's degree, right? It has a bachelor's degree in human language, and then he has a master's degree in paper 2, IB history. To do that, you need a large and high-quality data set. So that's where schools can come together. Educators and schools coming together, we can create data sets where we have student work, where we have teachers grading. If schools come together, those can be very large data sets. And then we can train models that are much more reliable than the tools that are created for us by edtech companies, because they've been trained on our own work, whether it's student work or teacher work.
And so here, I think it's another very interesting example. In the industry, what we say outside of education is the future of AI is also some models that are going to be created for very, very specific tasks. And we see that in the research. AI is way bigger than ChatGPT. There is research in medical field, mathematics, science, that are looking at to design model that do this specific task and become an expert. What we use mostly in school is a general model. that can do a lot, but they're very big. They're not sustainable also in terms of like energy they use, etc. The small model are going to be great, but education is not. We're always a bit behind, and K to 12 school we're always behind in integrating technology. It's going to start by university, and then it will be us. But those models are going to be important for education. So being able to design some model of language, which is not ChatGPT, but model of language that are doing a very specific task. If school come together and can develop this kind of model, that can be extremely helpful for school. So it's a bit like looking forward and being a bit hopeful and maybe a bit utopist. You know, I'm French, but I think it's important for us to not be behind, because this revolution is going to really impact greatly education. And it's going to go super fast. And we can't be like in other revolutions that happened 10 years behind, because 10 years is going to be a gigantic leap for all of us. So I think this is a very good example on how we can design an AI model that do a specific task that works for us.
Right, and another reason why AI is this revolution is a bit different from the previous innovations and waves of new technologies in education is because in some ways we don't have much of a choice. Reason being, students are going to be using, or they are already, and more students will be using AI for different purposes. Our teachers will be using AI for different purposes. Likely everybody in your school community is going to be using AI. So the only question is, will they have the training? Will they have the understanding and the skills to know when to use it, how to use it well, how to use it responsibly? Or will they be using it without any kind of support or guidance, right? But it's not a choice between AI or no AI, because that choice is going to be made for you by your community, and they are going to be using it because it's easy and it saves time. The question is, will they go beyond that? Will they just delegate their thinking to AI, or will they be using it to design their own thinking tools and go beyond just substituting their own thinking with AI?
And the reason it's critical, and I like to quote the philosopher McLuhan, who stole this quote from a friend of him, but it's given to him, is what this philosopher say, that we are the tool that we behold. We shape tools, and the tools shape us. And this has been true in the history of humanity. But now the tool that we're shaping, that is going to shape us, it's AI. That means it's not something physical. It's about our brain, it's about our thinking, it's about our language. And so it's extremely critical that all of us, we come together and we look at it at, okay, so how can it serve the purpose of education and support young people to become citizens in this world, to make a good and positive impact on the world? It's extremely critical. So maybe now we can go back, Jeremy, to a very concrete example, going back to something that I've shared in a couple of conferences that seems to have a lot of traction. It's about a task that we're doing. It's an observation report. When we go in the class, we observe, and then from the observation, we need to design a report. And I remember a conversation I had in San Diego a few weeks ago with a colleague from Seattle, who was telling me, I've done 4 observations since the beginning of school year, and I stopped because I did not have the time to write the report yet. And so the idea of like this mountain of report that I needed to write, because it's related to the contract and it's something that we need to do and we need to provide feedback to, was something that like stopped her from doing what she's doing. And so what I answer her is that, in 24 hours, I've been able to do 4 reports. I don't do 4 reports every 24 hours, but at that moment, I was coming to this conference, and the week before, I've been able to do 4 reports in 24 hours. And the way I do that is by focusing the time that I have on what is the most critical. And what is the most critical when we share a report of observation class, a class report with a teacher? Is the observation, being in the class, is being able to capture what happened in the class, to be able to look at it through the lens of our teaching and learning policies, to be able to think about some specific suggestion that can help the teachers. This is really what is the most critical. But what is not critical is to spend hours to be able to write it. And so what I'm going to share with you is the process I'm using. It's going to be a bit fast, but that's going to give you an idea. Okay, so bear with me here. And hopefully you're going to be able to see my screen. Voilà. And it starts with, I walk in the class, I observe for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I took few notes on my notebook about what I've seen. I don't do what we do sometimes. We kind of like write a report sometime in the class because that saves us some time. So the notes are kind of already like ready to use. I don't do that because I go, I see the student, I really observe. I go around, I take very few notes. And when I walk out of the class, I'm doing what I'm going to show you here. I take my phone that you see on my screen here, and I record an audio message. And this audio message, I can record it like, usually it's like 10, 12 minutes, where I share everything I've seen, all the suggestions that I quickly note, all the areas of growth that we can see, all the great idea that I want to highlight, everything that is happening. And I record all this in audio message. And there is so much information in the audio message that when I ask the app to write it in a report and organize my thinking, as Jeremy was talking about, usually the report is really state-of-the-art. It's nothing more or less than what I say, because there is so much. If I don't talk enough, it might create some things, but I never have an hallucination or anything like that, except that now it's written in a simple and clear way and well organized. I put a tag on this, and it goes in a system that I've designed. And in this system, it generates another report with ChatGPT, and it does something that, and I'm going to pause here once again. It does something here, what you see on the screen here, the little green icon here, it does something that I've never been able to do. We have the Kim Marshall rubric, and for some teachers, from some head of school or principal use the Kim Marshall rubric, there is way too many. And we have never been able to write really a report that tailored to the rubrics because there is just too many and it takes way too much time. Now what I do is I add here in this example AI to look at my transcript, because I got the transcript, and to look at, do you see evidence that the teaching standard that we have are met or not? And it's going to generate a report on that. It's going to update a database, and it's going to give me this report on my phone. I select the teacher. I put the correct time here. I select the subject, for example. For a few things I'm doing manually here, I put some in the app. And then after, I'm going to go on my computer. And I have all the data that I've collected. My transcript, so exactly what I say, the first report that I've already corrected a bit, the second report that I can use if I want, the standard alignment that I can see and I can pick and choose the thing that I like. I can see also some suggestions sometimes that maybe I didn't think about. And I spent some time on this, like 10, 15 minutes to try to reorganize again. And I put it in a box and then I'm done. And what you're going to see next is something that I just don't do anything with that. I click on send to the teacher. What it's going to do is going to go again in the system, and that the task is going to happen in the back that I don't need to take care of it because I'm not paid to write an email. I'm paid to be in the class and observe and give good feedback to the teacher. The system is going to generate a report in PDF based on all the data I have, send the report by email, and this is the email that the teacher received, a clean, nice template email with some information. At the bottom, he's going to be able to see, because the teacher asked me, can I have a PDF? So it's a pretty good report. So there is a PDF generated automatically with my signature that they can keep for themselves. And I have a link to a platform that allow them to access all the reports, observation report that I would have done with them, and allow them to access all the pictures they can use also in their newsletter if they want. The other thing they can do also is they can add a comment, so feedback on the report. So if they want to say anything, they can say here, they can say it here. And so the report that I'm generating now are perfectly aligned with all the everything I've seen and I've said. There is nothing that AI has created for me. There is some suggestion that I don't think about that can be here that I can use if I want. But for the report that it generated for me, it's exactly what I say. But now I save so much time. So rather than to spend 8 hours to generate a report of this quality, updated on the platform, etc., which I will not do with the technology, I have spent 20, 30 minutes of observation, 10, 15 minutes of sharing my report in an audio message, 10, 15 minutes of reorganizing the thinking that AI has allowed me to reorganize, and click on a button to send to the teacher. That's why I was able to do 4 reports in 24 hours compared to what the colleague was able to do. So that leads us to this question, Jeremy, about the IT. And I think we need to go a bit fast because we have only a few more minutes. So I will go really fast on this one, Jeremy. We need to think about what is the role of the IT department. The IT, and that's what happened in Barcelona, for example, and in many other schools. The IT department should not just be here to solve problem, technical problem, and make sure that the network is working great and that the one-on-one is just like the cycle is great, etc. They need to be able to see how we work. What do we want to do? The starting point is not what technology can do. The starting point is what do you want to do, Mr. Valet, to be able to organize your substitution and see how technology can support that. And the question of AI in some ways, it's a collaboration. It's not an IT question. The IT is here because they have the expertise. Like Jeremy, for example, has an expertise in IT, but Jeremy has an expertise in the curriculum, has an expertise in instruction. This is the collaboration that we need. And we don't have, like I have some skill in IT, but we don't ask to a principal or head of school. This is not what matters. The IT is what matters is curriculum, is management, is working with people. So if you don't have all these set of skills, you need to make sure that in your school, you're going to have all those sets of skills working together. And that's what is going to be very, very critical. So Jeremy, we were going to talk about the main risk, but I think we're going to have to go probably to the next level. So maybe quickly here, risk with technology, AI integration, Jeremy.
Right, and so we're going to go fast, although it's obviously super important. But we do want to name that we are aware that along with the potential, there are also many either concerns or considerations when it comes to AI integration. So just going to show them without really discussing them. But we did mention that not using it properly could actually hinder education more than promoting good practices. There are obviously data privacy, confidentiality concerns. There can be equity issues, whether it's in the access to the technology or even its output. It could lead to sort of unlearning of critical skills if we rely too much on AI. We mentioned the risk of bias and discrimination, the risk of a loss of human connection, whether it's in the classroom or in schools in general, the costs, and the fact that there might be resistance from some of our community members to AI integration. And the reason why we're showing you those risks is also because we believe, as we said before, that to optimize AI integration and to mitigate those risks, we need to come together as educators, and schools all over the world need to come together, which is what we are proposing to do today.
Yeah, and so this has really started also, so Jeremy and I and another colleague from China who is somewhere on the screen, I've seen his name, Shannon is somewhere here, is this conversation that I have continued also in AAIE conference in New York with Laura that allow me also to share this message, and with Jeff also, is how we can all come together as school leaders, experts, in AI, which I don't think we are really expert in AI because, but people who are innovating with it, people who are curious about it, people who have questions, people who have concern. We have people all over our schools that are on all these different domains here. And we have the industry that is developing some technology and investing in that. How can we as international school come together to create this community of expertise that could share with other schools the work that can be done, that can help to guide school in a safe implementation of AI? That would be the ambition that we had initially with Jeremy and with Shannon, to be able to create this platform that could feed the work that Jeff is doing with AISH, that the work that AIE is doing with Laura, that can be this, that can work also with accreditation on questioning the impact of AI on school organization and school curriculum. So there is this website here that is really in construction, that some of you have already registered in New York, that we want to be able to share with you. And from there is to be able to identify those different expertise and create this community of sharing and learning that we want to be able to do together. And maybe Laura or Jeff, you could share the link also a bit later in one of the newsletters that you have, because we go really fast here, because we want to be able to have some time. That's the platform here. We want to be able to have a bit some time to take few questions. I think that's also important. So here we are for the question, and maybe we can go back to unspotlighting us. Voilà. So Jeremy, you're going to go back to the Zoom. Voilà.
Yes.
What an incredible hour. Thank you, Pascal. And I know we are coming up at the top of the hour. I'm sorry, I interrupted. Go ahead, Pascal. Did you have something you wanted to say?
No, I think I talk enough.
No, no, in actuality, you know, as you were talking, there were some questions that popped up, and I will bring those to the forefront. But you hit on one of the questions, and that was the safety and security when Jeremy was talking about the concerns. I love the idea of the community coming together to work on this, and I see you've shared the website. We will share that as well. But someone asked about privacy concerns with the students. Can you touch on that at all? The question was, what about privacy concerns with that?
Yeah, so there is something that maybe Jeremy could talk specifically about the work that and some work we have done to keep the AI internally. That's something that can be done. On the privacy, there is one thing that is important between using ChatGPT as it is, and ChatGPT can utilize the data that is going to be provided, and using the API from OpenAI, which is also the ChatGPT, the API. So using the AI integrating its system allows us to decide also if the data is going to be used or not. Platform like Flint, Mizu, or Magic School, etc., they have also technically, based on my understanding of the conversation I have with one of the CEO, they have also agreement with OpenAI to not use also this data that is going to be provided. Now, on the work that I've been sharing with you, there is no student data. There is one application that we have used with the API is on report card comments, but there is no, except a first name, there is no way to be able to identify also the student. So we are trying to be careful with that, and it's part of a statement and some more conversation we could have in the next few months about again safeguarding with specific statements and policy that we need to have internally for that. But it's interesting to read also the footprint on the tools that we're using and see how ChatGPT, OpenAI, or all these platforms can use the data. And Jeremy, you want to say maybe more about the open source specifically?
Right. So I mean, you mentioned the difference between using tools like ChatGPT directly, where the data would be shared and used for training, right? Which is one particular issue with student data, that data is going to be used to further train the model. That is not the case when you use the API. The API calls the data is not used for training. Now it's still stored somewhere externally, right? But it's not used for training. Options that you have, if the issue is when students use an AI tool, how we can make sure this use is safe. Two options are tools that are designed for educators and that are already FERPA and GDPR compliant. So that would be the case. I don't work for them, but whether it's Mizu, whether it's School AI, like they are FERPA and GDPR compliant. So that data is safe, or it's safely stored and not further shared. The sort of utmost level of safety would be developing your own solution and hosting and running them on your own servers at school with open source platforms, in which case the data doesn't leave the hardware that is located in the school.
All right. Well, we're coming up on the top of the hour, and I'm cognizant of everybody's time, but so much information shared here today, and I can't thank you enough. I'm going to go back to the comment I think Pascal made that, or well, both of you are saying that we need to lead the way, not us hanging on to AI and letting it lead the way. It is changing everything we do. But as Pascal said, we need to work on regaining humanity in the work that we're doing. So thank you so much for being with us. You are showing us how to flip the conversation, how to flip the work and take control and move forward. Any last comments, Jeremy or Pascal?
Yeah,
no, thank you. Okay, Jeremy.
Yes, but Pascal said, but I want to reiterate what we're doing is only possible thanks to you, Laura, thanks to Jeff, thanks to AISH, but also because we've been working again with Ryan Tannenbaum, with Shannon Doak from Nanjing International School. Like it's a whole team of people, and we're hoping to find other people to work with. Whether you come with questions or you have solutions or you want to develop those solutions with us, it's going to take a whole global village to master that beast.
And I will add one more thing, Laura. And I say like, kudos to Shannon and Ryan that work with us also on that, definitely. One more message is a message that Delphine Le Serre, who is very knowledgeable in AI and future of education, who have done a couple of conferences in North America. And she's really showing that it can go both ways. It can be a beautiful development for the humanity if we do it right. And we see the research on sustainability and AI, etc. Or if we don't take control, as you say, Laura, it can be also have negative impact on humanity and all of us and on education. So I think that's why it's important that we are proactive and we're not waiting for the system to be developed for us, but we are proactive and we take control, as you say, of the system as much as what we can. That's our hope. That's our wish.
Great final words.
That is a perfect ending to this conversation, and I can't thank you all enough for being with us. This has been recorded. I will stop the recording now and we can share this out. What an incredible hour. Thank you very much, Pascal. Thank you very much, Jeremy. And on you go.